Alright, let's just get right into it. It's been a while, I know, but I've been doing quite a bit in the background, so I just haven't had the same time, or dedication, or willpower, or want, or need, or just anything. It's about 50% procrastination, the other 50% is being busy. That's why a video hasn't been out, but I finally finished the 90% finished with the next Super Chef update. Now, it's not set 2, but I'll have more on that in a minute. So for the past, 4 or 5 months, that's how procrastinative I can be, I've been working on a quote-unquote tiny update that was really only supposed to take a month, but, got dragged out significantly longer than it should have. Just an update, mostly focusing on the rulebook. There are a lot of spelling errors. There was a lot of things that could be clarified better and rewritten to make more sense. I even added a few new pages, which we'll talk a little more in depth here in a little bit. While the update mainly focuses on the rulebook, there have been some card balance changes with a few changes to the starter decks. So let's start with the cards themselves. A lot of these changes were just minor rewordings, though only a few cards were changed. First, we've got Curly Basket. This is the perfect example of me just rewording the ability to just make infinitely more sense, removing unneeded complexity. Next up, Mashed Potatoes. Again, just a clarification to specify that the ability only works while it's on the table. Now, Glazed Donut actually received a buff. Now, I've gone back and forth with Glazed Donut. It used to be really strong, so I nerfed it a couple of times. Then it was too weak, so I tried to rework it. But I think it's in a good state now. Now, to activate its ability, you need to play it to a specific customer. And since that's kind of a tough requirement, its ability now lets you choose any food card on the table to remove. Bloody Mary actually got a nerf in this update, same with Potted Plants, which we'll go over here in a minute. Now, instead of increasing the value of all your vegetable foods on the table by 4, it's only by 2. And the reason for this is because Garden Pizza, which I've renamed to Garden Pizza Slice, became a reliable way for vegetable decks to discard their cards. Meaning Bloody Mary was far too easy to get its ability off now, and frankly, its ability was quite absurd. The same also applies to Potted Plants. It would increase your vegetable or fruit type foods by 2, but since now Bloody Mary increases it by 2 to make them more distinct and unique from each other, I've lowered it down to 1. There's also a balancing reason for it, because it's a lot easier to play a special card than to discard Bloody Mary. Beef Stew saw a minor nerf. You now have to send another food on the table with the spicy type to your waste pile to play it. This was done because Beef Stew is a 7 value card, and it didn't really have enough drawbacks in my opinion. Baked Chips had its ability clarify that it only works with your baked chip copies, so your opponent's baked chips won't affect yours. Double Decker Club, I just clarified and reworded its ability, otherwise it's pretty much the same. Red Wine is another case of that. Its ability was just reworded to just be easier and clarify things better. Freezer Fridge Unit got completely reworked. It still has that same ability, but it was nerfed. Now you have to shuffle a card from your hand to shuffle a food that's on the table to the owner's restaurant. You can target your opponents or your own food cards. It also has the added bonus that if the target is a frozen type, you don't shuffle the food, but instead increase its value by 3. Trash Bag also saw a nerf. Instead of 2 cards, your opponent now only discards 1. I realized that it was way too overpowered when playing a game of Super Chef with Devin the other day, and it needed a nerf. Businessman just received a minor update. I fixed a spelling mistake in his name. Quick tangent, that's how you spell business. I had the I and the S swapped though, because if you look at that, that's busyness, right? No one says that, they say business. And because English is weird, you add the U or whatever, that makes the most sense to me. It's so weird. Busyness, man, not business. It's weird, man. It's weird. Rich Elite just received a minor clarification. While food cards of 4 value or less can't be played to him, they can be moved to his lane. Friendly Regular, I just reworded his ability again to make it a little more to make it easier to read. Delivery driver, I clarified when you send your cards from your waste pile back to your restaurant. I also lowered the amount you gain back from 4 back down to 3. I just felt like 4 was just too much, like it's a lot, and just 3 just, I don't know. I think this wasn't really anything like overpowered that I saw. It's just 4 seems too much, so I brought it back down to 3. Indecisive Geezer had its ability reworked. It was really easy to fully shut down your opponent's plays with the old ability, especially if you were going last that turn. Now you have to discard a card, and it only affects cards played to Indecisive Geezer, so he's just a lot more balanced and makes more sense. That's it for the individual card updates. Now, before we touch on the rule book, I want to talk about the 3 starter decks. I'll just go over them real quick. The breakfast starter deck, I removed pineapple rings and replaced it with apple pie. I did this because the starter decks are meant to be easy for first-time players. They're meant to be, you know, a pick up and use type of thing. And pineapple rings can be very complex, especially for those who don't play card games. So I felt like they needed to be replaced. Apple pie was chosen for being somewhat simple, having primary types that were kind of lacking in this starter deck. It also has decent base value, which was needed for this deck. I also removed Friendly Regular and replaced it with Food Critic. If Friendly Regular is drawn on the first turn, it's nearly impossible to play anything to him, so that really doesn't make him beginner friendly. It also makes it so that each starter deck has a Food Critic in it. I also removed Triple Stack and replaced it with Corn Dog. Since I added Apple Pie to the deck, Triple Stack kind of had the exact same role. So I decided to remove it and swap it with Corn Dog just to fill in some extra space that was needed in the deck. Corn Dog being a main type and a 5 value card, which was kind of lacking in the breakfast deck. Now, the Spicy Alcohol starter deck didn't receive any changes. It's still the most complex out of the starter decks, but it really didn't. I feel like it's in a good spot and really didn't need any changes. However, the Vegetable starter deck also received a few changes. Again, I removed the Taste Tester for Food Critic for the same reasons I did in the Breakfast deck. I also changed the contents around a little. Since Apple Pie was going into the Breakfast deck, I replaced it with Blueberry Pie instead, but I lowered that down to 2 copies for Blueberry Pie and gave an extra copy to Healthy Platter, making it 3 copies in total for the deck. I did that mostly because Healthy Platter is kind of like a basic vegetable card and like one of the very few support cards in the game, so I just wanted an extra copy in there. So those are the few changes for the starter decks. Now let's move on to the rulebook. As you can see, there's a whole new section, this blue section, which is alternative game modes. I've also added a few new pages here and there and overall fixed a lot of spelling mistakes, reworded things to just make more sense. I'm not going to go through every single page, but we will check out a few, like the new layout page. Instead of just being a wall of text, I actually included a few pages of examples, with even the tabletop version shown. Now, because the tabletop version is so big, it's not printer friendly, so I again decided to just leave it out in terms of printing it, but you can visually look at it and recreate it in your own ways. Then of course we have the blue sections, which are alternative game modes. They're just a few rule changes for the most part to just make the game a little more interesting, or, you know, let you play a little longer or shorter depending on time restraints. We've got a long game, which increases customer decks from 6 to 9, increases restaurant sizes from 40 to 50, and now you can have a total of 4 copies per card. Short game does kind of the opposite. We've got this special game mode, Time Trial. Instead of competing for total dollar value in cash, instead you're just competing for the amount of customer cards you win. You play a normal game, only the first person to have more than half of the customer cards wins. We then have draft and unlimited modes. if you've played Hearthstone, or I'm sure there's other games that have this system, it's just, you know, a basic draft system. You make a big deck of a bunch of cards, and then you draw 3, pick the one that you like, and just keep doing that until you have a deck. The unlimited game mode, on the other hand, is a little special. It's essentially just removes all deck constraints. You could have literally 1 copy of any card, and that could just be your deck, 40 copies of 1 card. Of course, you'll lose, because you'll only be able to play 3 cards per turn, 3 cards per round, but you could do it. Now, that's just for your restaurant. Your customer deck still follows standard rules, because if that was the case, both you and your opponent could pick the same customer, and if you win the exact same amount of customers, then you'll just tie. And so, like, it's just to kind of remove that from being an option. Now this, I'm really excited. I really want to try this out whenever I get the chance. I think this would be really fun. A 4-player game mode and a team variant. Now, I'm not going to go in depth here, but essentially it's 4 players. There's a 4-player free-for-all where you're competing against 4 customers per round instead of 3. And then there's a team variant where it's 2v2, and you share customers and you share table space. So you and your teammate are playing cards. You can't play grilled burger to one lane. Your teammate plays it to another, and then you play your own grilled burger to that same lane. You share cards, so you'll have to work extra hard, manage your table and all that. I think that'd be really fun. I really want to try just either a basic 4-player or a teams game. Like, I think that'll be really cool. Then for some more of the boring side of the rulebook update, I've got a new glossary page for common TCG rules. These are kind of just basic generic rules that almost every card game has. Like, you're not allowed to look through your restaurant, your main deck, or the customer deck, merge side deck, unless you play a card with an ability that allows you to. You know, just some generic basic rules. There's a few that are more specific to Super Chef, but just didn't really have any place that fit in the rulebook. And then I also added a credits page. I made sure to credit the people of the fonts that I used, and then of the food background, which you can see right here. I also give a big thanks to Devin, who obviously helped me make the game. He helped me test it, he helped me create ideas, come up with balancing, and just overall, without him, the game wouldn't exist, because I make these games to play with my friends, for the most part, and then I release them for you guys to enjoy, hopefully in the same way that I do. And then, of course, all my art and assets belong to me, besides those who I credit on the page. But I want to really just say thank you, not only for showing love and support for Super Chef, which I know isn't nearly as popular as Phytora was, which I understand. It's not a dueling card game. There aren't cool creatures that battle each other. However, in the future, I will be making more games, more dueling games, because while I love Super Chef and I love working on it and I'm excited to get onto set 2, I really do miss that aspect of you're fighting your opponent with creatures and just dealing damage and fighting. Like, I miss that aspect. But regardless, I want to thank you guys for the support on the channel, the support for everything. There's so many of you who enjoy and watch my videos, and I want to apologize for having such long breaks in between videos. I've got another video almost completed. Like, I wasn't planning on making this video, I just kind of finished everything right now, so I wanted to get this out now because it would be quick. So the quality of this video might not be as high, but I wanted to get this out like snap, like quick. And then I've got another video that's almost ready to be posted. And then I've got a few video ideas and just whatnot. I plan to start working on set 2 of Super Chef either next month or the month after. After I'm done with set 2 for Super Chef, I will start my next game project. Unlike with what I did this time, where I wanted to take a few month break and then work on set 2, this time I'll focus on my next project, and then I'll make another set for Super Chef whenever I get the time, or in between. After set 2 of Super Chef, my focus will be on my next card game project, and I hope you guys are looking forward to that, because I plan to do a devlog series with that. I'm not sure how it'll fully work out, how things will go, because I've obviously never done anything like that, but I'm really looking forward to it. I should clarify real quick that the update isn't fully complete. The deck lists are still outdated, so I'm still in the process of updating them. However, everything else is up to date. All the individual cards, all the printout card sleeves. So besides the starter decks, which I have to do a little more work on, everything else is updated and ready to go. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye!